Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 7 o'clock newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. Here's what we have coming up for you in news on this Tuesday. It's Election Day across the United States, and with the few and limited local races, so keep it here to WHOW and DeWitt and Regional Radio for election coverage this evening. The DeWitt County Development Council's executive director is touting some of the latest developments in DeWitt County today. A nonprofit is teaching kids about the future of renewable energy across the nation. That story comes up in news this morning. With the deer hunting season upon us, the University of Illinois Extension's deer donation program continues to grow. This year, they've put a new name to the program. That story comes up in news. And, of course, we have our weekly crop report coming up today as well. But first, we stream to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. In the last month, it's been announced a new bank is setting up shop in Clinton. That's just one of the exciting things happening in DeWitt County recently. On the WHOW Morning Show Monday, DeWitt County Development Council Executive Director Kurt Homan told Regional Radio the new bank coming to Clinton has been in the works for a little while now.
You know, Longview Bank is really one that I actually had invited one of the bank employees to actually was a hospital function, and they came, and 3 or 4 years ago, and probably 3, just kind of introduced them to the community here. But you know, that is really one that we have been off and on working with probably for the last couple years. Mm-hmm. You know, there wasn't a lot of convincing. They wanted to come to Clinton, and we're happy to be helpful in doing that. But I made some presentations to a couple different of their bank boards, and had a lot of meetings in there, and then for the most part tried to be helpful. But they knew that they wanted to be in Clinton, and that's always a big plus. They had the resources to do it, which helps as well, and really looking forward to seeing them here every day, and now another nice addition.
Have they started moving dirt out there yet?
They have. Yeah. They sure have.
Okay,
so.
Cool. Very good. So new bank coming to town, you know, and back to your Homan indicates the development and extension of Somerset Drive in Clinton were born out of conversations with a couple of Clinton business owners. Homan believes that development is more good things for Clinton.
The new subdivision behind Farm Bureau and Baum Chevrolet, you know, we talk about that. That was a meeting that took place, a couple years ago. Scott Baum, one of our board members, ran into Dave Waters. They were having a conversation. And, you know, we can talk about these things now, but, you know, we sat Roger Cyrillic, met with him and I and Dave and Scott, and, you know, discussed a subdivision. And timing was impeccable on that because the city had some TIF funds that account was expiring, so they needed to use those funds. And you know, I know there's a lot of behind the scenes work, but you know, I will say Roger Cyrillic was absolutely on the ball with that. And I don't know who else had their hands in it, but you know, from that perspective, we had a subdivision map very, very quickly. And so again, residential is not business necessarily, but it will bring more people, more housing, more jobs with construction and those types of things.
According to Homan, the Farmer City Grocery Co-op's bid for a significant grant from the state of Illinois did not end up happening, but he says they are still moving forward towards establishing itself in downtown Farmer City.
Farmer City, throw this out, Farmer City has a new downtown bakery and coffee shop that's going to be opening up early next year. And I've been working with the owners there for some time, and excited to finally see that one open up. It'll be a great addition to downtown Farmer City. And you had referenced the co-op in downtown Farmer City as well. So we did apply for a grant. I actually did the application process for him through the state of Illinois. The pretty intense application. We were given all indications that we probably were going to receive that grant, and unfortunately we did not. You know, very, very disappointing in that area. They did open up round 2. The co-op is not going to apply for that grant again, based on the conversations I had with the person that oversees that grant. We do a grocery store has to be more than 10 miles away, which it is, but the income level of the community, they really needed it to be lower. So
no kidding.
Yeah. So I think for a grant purpose, it was, the income was the average household income was too high in Farmer City, and, which is a good thing, but for the grant, it, wasn't a good thing. So that was plan B to begin with, because the grant really wasn't a possibility when they started talking. So now it's back to plan A, if I could say that. And they have been doing some fundraising, and there'll be some city, the expectation is there'll be some city TIF funds and some other government funds that are out there, along with their fundraising efforts. So they never really had one specifically in place. If the state grant was approved, there would be work probably starting in the next 60 days. In this case, there probably will be work starting in the next 60 to 90 days. It'll just look a little bit different.
Learn more all about the happenings with the DCDC by following them on Facebook. A national nonprofit is teaching the future of America about the future of renewable energy. Michael Arquin with Kid Wind explains they are a national nonprofit devoted to promoting green energy in classrooms. They connect with teachers by affiliating with school districts and local partners to train students.
I'm a converted middle and high school teacher. Kid Wind's been around for 22 years now, and we're all about sort of helping teachers bring clean energy content into their classrooms through a lot of we have a lot of curriculum, materials, and we do a lot of training of teachers coming out to different communities all across the United States. There's a lot of interest in renewables right now, as you may or may not know, and teachers are very curious, so they're curious about how to bring it to their classrooms. So we get into those classrooms by a lot of times affiliating with a partner in the area or school district, and we get some funding from some local partners, and then we show up for a full day, half day, and we train maybe 20 to 30 teachers in those communities about how to teach about wind energy, how to teach about solar energy, helping them sort of see how to do it in their classroom. And teachers these days really love the support of learning how to do that. You can read a lot of pieces of paper, but when you see somebody do it, it really helps you actually do it in the classroom. So we're there to do that kind of work.
As a former teacher, Arquin feels he and his team know how to reach teachers. They focus on the science and engineering aspects of green energy with the teachers and students.
Yeah, and I have a huge network. So every summer we hold a week-long training. We create some master teachers. I actually have a number of them in central Illinois. So they go and do the training for me. Teachers are the hardest students, they say. They're kind of the hardest kids to teach. And so it's good to have other teachers doing that. So we're very focused on sort of the science and engineering around, say, how a wind turbine works or a solar panel and things like that. So we want the kids to be using actually the same materials you might see in the real world, but just scaled down. So we have a lot of think 2 foot tall wind turbines where kids can change the blades on those and change how well they work. They're learning a lot about how to measure electrical output, using a multimeter, things like that. They're also playing with real live solar panels and seeing how they configure them and do things like that. So we're always very focused on giving them very practical but very hands-on activities that teach them exactly how to do this stuff. And a lot of times we'll bring in people from industry in the area to show them what their jobs could look like in the future. So there's a lot of kind of things like that.
Arquin notes there are 3 major barriers to getting topics into schools, and those are training teachers, giving them time to understand the material, and allowing the resources to teach
There
it.
are 3 barriers to people doing stuff in classrooms. Number 1, you got to know what you're doing, so we got to do training. Number 2, you got to have some time to figure it out. And number 3, you got to have the stuff. So we fundraise to make sure that any teacher that comes to a training would get a pretty big pile of stuff so they could do it in their classroom. A lot of that's funded either through state or federal agencies and or the developers. So we're pretty good about helping to make sure that if you're interested, we're going to get you the materials you need to kind of do this in the classroom. We have a number of virtual support tools that we do where we have, we call them there's things called Spark Sessions and Tinker Times. Once or twice a month, we'll have these 1-hour online webinars where kids can come in and learn more about tweaking their turbines or their solar panels, or just learn. We'll have somebody from the industry on talking about what it's like to build a solar farm and all the challenges of doing that. So we try to have after that, there's a bunch of virtual and other supports that we provide.
According to Arquin, there are more ways for students to be involved in Kid Wind than just in the classroom. They host STEM competitions called the Kid Wind Challenge.
So yeah, we have established something we call the Kid Win Challenge, and this is a student-based design challenge started around wind energy, but now includes solar and also like hydropower and some other things. But it's a very open-ended. Your audience may know of things like they may have kids who are in like Lego robotics challenges or other challenges like that. It's very much like that, but the prompt is very much around build a 2-foot tall wind turbine, and we're going to stick it in a wind tunnel and test how well it works. And so we bring these wind tunnels or these solar arrays to like, we do one at Heartland, actually, one of our regional ones. We do about 60 of these across the United States, and Heartland is a place where we do one of these. And the kids will bring their turbines that they've constructed. They put them in there. They may have done this work in their classroom. A lot of times these kids are doing it in like after school programs where they're like in a club or something like that, or even homeschool kids or all kinds of kids. Everybody's sort of welcome to come as long as you know the rules and bring your turbine. So we have a lot of kids who sort of get into that, and then once they go to that, they usually get really hooked because we try to keep it pretty fun. It's more like a celebration than a competition. We have a lot of like fun prizes. If they do really well at that, they get invited to the Kid Win World Championships, which is like a really big party. So they think that's kind of fun.
Keep it tuned to regional radio in the coming days to hear more from Arkwin and all that Kid Win has to offer in Central Illinois specifically. Find out more information at kidwind.org. News time is 19 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. Still to come this morning, we've got to look at that weekly crop report, as we've got just a small handful of crop reports remaining as the harvest continues to wind down in Central Illinois. Also coming up in sports this morning, the college basketball season opened yesterday, and the three local programs, Illinois, Illinois State, and Bradley, all in action in the season opening action on Monday. That's still to come in sports this morning. With the deer hunting season upon us, the University of Illinois Extension is asking hunters to keep a growing program in mind. Caitlin Mellendorf is a nutrition educator with the University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties, and explains the deer donation program supports food pantries with venison called Hunters Feeding America.
Hunters Feeding Illinois is a partnership to connect hunters, meat processors, and food pantries in the local area to bring our food pantry guests and clientele access to lean protein that is venison. And so hunters are going to be able to go out anytime during the season and drop off a harvested deer with a partnering meat processor, all free of charge. So they do not have to have that covered. So they can have just hopefully the personal excitement of I get to go hunting and I get to donate to my community as well. Our meat processors are going to turn all of that deer into ground venison, so think hamburger. And then our food pantry partners are going to pick up meat and share that with their clientele during distributions. Illinois Extension pops in at that distribution phase where we're able to provide things like direct education in terms of recipe sampling. So if you have never tried venison before and you're thinking, what is this? What does this taste like? We'll give you a sample. Make sure that it's something that you're comfortable with. And then providing recipes, recipe cards, and items to support cooking at home. So things like pot holders. We call them meat mashers. So if you've ever used, it's a multi-pronged masher on a stick. It breaks up that ground meat really nicely. And so for folks that are thinking, oh, I've never had venison, what is that like? We generally say if you have a recipe for ground beef, venison's an excellent substitute. The flavors match really well, and venison is so lean. There's very little fat to it. So depending on the recipe, you may actually want to add a little bit of fat back to it.
Mellendorf notes they have seen a lot of growth with this program, and this year there are a few changes. They've partnered with Feeding Illinois, who plans to match all donations the extension receives for the program.
Hunters Feeding Illinois. So this is, we're so excited that this has grown. We've had so much interest in this. And so the last 2 years, our first donation season, we had about 8,000 pounds of meat donated. Wow. Then last year we had about 12,000 pounds of meat donated. And so, we'll take it if we can beat our record every year. But we had some big changes this year. So we are partnering with Feeding Illinois, which is the network of food banks around the state of Illinois. And so they are going to be providing us a 1-to-1 match. So any funds that we raise, Feeding Illinois is going to match 1-to-1. And so that is excellent, because if someone donates $50 to our program, Feeding Illinois will match that other $50. And we have $100, which processes one deer. So all of our partnering meat processors are reimbursed $100 per deer. And so having, $50 and then $50 and being able to match that, it's going to be so helpful for us. So we're super excited to have that partnership. Also, we have changed our name with that. So we have the program has previously been called Illinois Deer Donation Program. We are now calling it Hunters Feeding Illinois. And so we have that name update. And then also we are expanding territory. So we are down in the southern part of the state as well, which is great. They already have a network down there with area food pantries. They've already been doing deer donation programs. So we're super excited to have those Illinois Extension staff be able to kind of fold it into a program and increase the territory that we're at.
All of the fees for the processing the deer meat are taken care of through donations and fundraising. According to Mellendorf, for the processing of the deer to be free, the hunter they need to go to an approved processor.
Right. This is entirely a fundraised program. There's no external funding source right now. We're working on that, fingers crossed, for future years. So hunters that go out, as long as they can find one of our partnering meat processors up here in this area, Moequa Packing is probably the closest one, as well as Champaign St. Joe has a processor that's partnering with us this year as well. And so to have check with those processors, make sure they have space. That's always something that during the height of the season they get very busy, they get full, and so we do want to make sure that before you harvest a deer, do double check, make sure they've got space to take that.
Yeah.
So we don't want you to harvest it, expect to be able to get it processed for free, and then they're full. We have our partnering meat processors just from the food safety element. We want to make sure that our processors are having the necessary tools and equipment to keep all that food safe.
If you'd like more information on where to go to donate your deer and support your community, visit go.illinois.edu/DMP. Harvest in Illinois nears its conclusion, and perhaps just in time, as a lot of moisture makes its way through the area this week. Last week, however, was warm and dry once again. State crop statistician Mark Schleusner notes over 5 days were suitable for field work in Illinois.
Temperatures were above normal, and rainfall was below normal last week for most of the state. Rainfall averaged 0.64 inches across the state, and that was nearly 0.2 of an inch drier than normal for this time of year. Southern areas received more rainfall than northern parts of the state. Temperatures averaged 56.7 degrees, and that was 6 degrees above normal. There were 5.7 days suitable for field work around the Prairie State last week, and topsoil moisture was rated 22% very short, 43 short, 32 adequate, and 3% surplus.
The soybean harvest is ahead of schedule and is 95% complete. Schleusner notes the corn harvest is also 95% complete and too is ahead of schedule.
Soybean harvest reached 95% finished compared to 93 1 year ago and 87% for the 5-year average. 95% of corn acres were harvested as of Sunday. That compares to 87% 1 year ago and 81 normally. Winter wheat planting advanced to 92% finished compared to 94% 1 year ago and 87 normally. 69% of wheat acres have emerged compared to 62 normally. The condition of the Illinois wheat crop was rated 11% very poor to poor, 21 fair, and 68% good to excellent.
Just 3 more crop reports remain for the calendar year 2024. It's Election Day in the United States, and a lot of attention, of course, is being paid to those federal candidates on the ballot. Locally, there are few contested races and a few referendums on the ballot throughout the listening area. Stay tuned to this station for the latest federal election returns on the air from SRN News. And tomorrow, we expect to have final results in many of the referendums in the area, and we'll have those both on air and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. 27 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. We've got more to come on the morning show.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. This is what we do every day. We listen to you, give you options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that's knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full-service dealer. See us at BaumChevyBuick.com right from the start.
News time is 27 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with the folks today for this expanded local newscast. Ahead of Election Day is here, and the Illinois State Board of Elections wants to eliminate any concerns about voter fraud. The agency's Matt Dietrich says he is confident in the state's election security.
We know it's safe because everything that is in the law is being carried out. We at the State Board of Elections oversee a program called the Cyber Navigator Program, which ensures that every local election authority throughout Illinois has access to the same cybersecurity resources that we have at the state level and that some of the larger election jurisdictions have. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, that's what I would point to. And I'd also explain to people that voters don't need to worry about a remote cyber hacking incident affecting their vote. And that's because those tabulators that you feed your ballot into after you fill them out at your polling place or at your early voting location are never connected to the internet. So even the cards, the data cards that are used to program them so that they'll recognize any ballot that's put into them, those cards are programmed on computers that also are not connected to the internet. So we want to make sure that there is no chance that any piece of malware or anything else could get into those.
Ahead of Election Day, nearly 74 million Americans cast their ballots in a highly contested presidential election. News today brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. We stream to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Get news anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.